All right, all right, all right. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Convento Beat, and a big welcome to everyone watching us remotely on our platforms and our app. Really appreciate you joining the event today here at this amazing stage. My name is Francisco Espanha, and I lead the startup, scale-up, and unicorn sector for Microsoft in the South and Central Europe. And this morning, I'm going to be your host in this amazing stage. And what a stage, right? It's the first time that we change to this venue. I don't know if you guys had the opportunity to actually take a look about or hear about the story of this. This was built, it's a monastery built in the 15th century. Then on the 18th century, it actually became a medical facility, a hospital for the military. There was a big fire, and with that fire there was some issues and so on, and that there was a private gentleman that purchased the building and transformed half of it into a factory. The interesting part of the factory is that it was the first time in Portugal that we used a steam engine. It was to build whatever they did at the time, right? It was bread, it was wheat, it was cereals, a lot of stuff. But it was very innovative at the time. It created one of the biggest brands in Portugal called Nacional. That entitled this building to actually be a facility of public interest. That's what it called. And only later, I think it was for the last almost 40 years, it became a place of actually doing events like this and many, many others that surely you guys heard about. And if we think about this, it's the perfect place for us to be here today. Pretty much this roller coaster journey of starting something, it changes, there's a fire, we sell it, then we rebuild it and so on, and we adapt to all of this. It's pretty much the journey of a startup. You start by wanting to build a monastery, and you end up with a facility event like this, amazing, with a guy on stage talking about it, right? It's pretty amazing. And for me, it's also a very personal event. It was a little bit over a year ago that I was at this event in Building a Future in a different venue. And I was on stage, actually, when there came the public announcement that I had joined Microsoft and so on. So when I was asked to be here this morning with you, naturally you get this one-year retrospective in your head. It's like, what happened and all that stuff. And wow, oh boy, what have we seen, right? From macro, social, economical factors, we saw plenty of things. Wars, political downfalls. We saw inflation, house market crisis and issues. We saw companies thrive and startups, great examples, fail. 2. On AI, we talked about AI at the time. We talked a little bit in some areas and so on. It was a topic, but nowhere as close as it is today. AI now, we see it in every talk and on the stage and slides. It's everywhere. Every person in stage for every 2 minutes that they talk, they say at least 10 times AI, right? And the reality is that things like, and terms like co-pilots, we start to talk about it, but it was not pervasive. And now look at us. We have co-pilot all over the place around us, right? Co-piloting our professional and personal lives. I think it's fair to think about 2023 as the year of AI. We saw major transformation, the tech market and industry push it to an inflection point that we are beyond the point of no return, to an unprecedented scale. It's a scale that, if you think about it, we end up making English the programming language. And that actually empowers everyone, literally everyone, to have tremendous abilities now to be able to do things that we're still trying to discover what we can do with it, right? And we continue to push. I don't know if you guys saw yesterday, we announced here at Building the Future, the AI Innovation Factory. It was a big announcement that we did yesterday that we're going to do here in Lisbon. And that is a place where we strategically partner with the Unicorn Factory. Why? Because we want to make sure that the whole ecosystem of startups is part of it and empowers and contributes and continues to push innovation through AI in pushing good use cases and production use cases to the market. So we wanted to create a little bit of an intimate more intimate space here for us startups to have a tailor-made agenda just for us and take value of the time that you guys investing here, right? And the big difference between this stage and the other one is that the other one is typical events, right? Sponsored, partners, customers come, they sponsor, they have a speaking slot and all that stuff, and they decide what they want to put there and talk and invite customers. Here, no, we tailored it and we invite experts to come and share the stories. Just because we had a tremendous partner and customer, Galp, who was here, their name. Galp, it's a well-known, super well-known machine of innovation. And it was great because it was a company that as soon as we start talking with them, they didn't even blink when they said that they wanted to sponsor the event and so on, which shows the commitment that they continuously have with the ecosystem and want to participate to evolve it and push it, right? So I really want to appreciate Galp for enabling us to be here today. So join me giving up for Galp, because if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't be here. All right, so the agenda today, the lineup is amazing. If we really simplified, we have startups, we need a product, idea, of course, product, people, and some capital to make it all happen eventually, right? So if we think about this, the agenda that we put today, we start with an investor's talk, where we're going to talk a little bit about the rest of 2024 and a little bit of what happened in 23 that was going to happen. Now, we have an amazing CTO roundtable, where we have people who actually have good examples of what they did in products, specifically where they embedded AI into their products with great use cases and stories. And to close the morning, we are going to have a discussion around, obviously, building high-performance teams and highly effective teams as well. Then to start the afternoon, we're going to have our friend Manuel Andrade from Galp hosting us through the afternoon of market classes, where, again, it is a place where we tailor the program or the master classes for you to make sure that you take the most out of it, where we're going to start with the concept of fast prototyping and fast product development, right, to accelerate our go-to-market. Then we're going to focus on the 6 capital sins of a startup. And I love this title because it's, self-explanatory and it's critical. You can make it or break it, right? And last but not least, we're going to end up with a master class around pricing. And this is very interesting topic where we look into creative models of pricing and look at them as a growth opportunity instead of a friction challenge that we might have, as we probably most of all already felt as we try to put prices in our services and products, right? So, as you can see, it's a day full of insights where we hope that you get inspired and take that inspiration, make them into some actionable items as soon as you leave the event. And I think that's it for an introduction. If you guys are ready, let's go. Yeah? Yeah, I like that. Okay, so for the first panel, we're going to have the investors talk. Is 2024 the year of the DownRounds? Is it not? And what are some of the opinions that we're going to have? What happened in 2023? Some of the opinions that we have of experts in the industry, and what do they see happening in the near future? Right? We're going to have Gilles Azevedo from Startup Lisboa and Unicorn Factory moderating this panel, with Teresa Fiuza from Portugal Ventures, with Francisco Pinto from Bynd Venture Capital, and Ricardo Jacinto from Shilling as well. Please, welcome on stage.
Yes, that's good.
Hello. Good morning, everyone, and thank you very much for inviting me and in the name of the other hosts to be on this roundtable. The theme seems a bit negative, so if 2024 is the year of the downturns, I hope not, and we'll have I hope a great conversation about what to expect and how does the global trends affect or not Portugal, and how Portugal can be protected or not from what's happening across the world. So I will start first with a first quick introduction about each one of you. So Teresa, I will start with you. So if you can tell us a little bit about you and Portugal Ventures.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much for the invitation. It's a great pleasure being here in such a good company. Portugal Ventures is a venture capital firm mostly owned by the state. So we are a public venture capital company. We invest in Portuguese startups, or startups that don't not Portuguese, but with a major position and operation in Portugal. So our aim is to develop the Portuguese ecosystem. And we have been doing that for the last 11 years. We invest in 4 different verticals: digital, engineering, life sciences, and tourism. Of course, these verticals are very important for our country, and that's why we do that. And we have 160 startups in our portfolio, majorly pre-seed, seed, until Series A. And that's what we do. We are a seed investor. What we pretend to do is to develop the startups until the point that the private venture capitalists, find them good enough to co-invest with us. So we have 3 very important networks to do our job. One is the Ignition Partners Network, where Unicorn Factory and Startup Braga, that I see on the audience, and many others. There are 125 Ignition partners that help us to bring the deal flow to us in order to say us where are the good startups to invest and where they are, because we have to invest, we want to invest not only in Lisbon and Porto, but all over the country, islands included. So this network is of huge value for us, and it also brings mentorship for our startups. It's an extension of our own team. And we have corporate network partners. This is a new network with corporates like Galp, like Microsoft and others, with 30 companies, mostly Portuguese, but with ambition to grow and to be outside. So these companies bring other things to our startups, namely the first sales, which is very good, very important for a startup. Sometimes they co-invest with us also, and they help us to through the process of defining in which startups will we invest. And the other network is, of course, the other companies that do the same that we do in Portugal and abroad, the Capital Partners Network, to co-invest with us and be along the way with us with the startups.
Thank you, Teresa. Ricardo, what about Shilling?
Hello, good morning, everyone. Thanks for the invite as well. So, Ricardo from Shilling. Shilling is a venture capital firm based here in Lisbon. We have been around for quite some time. We started investing in Portugal back in 12. The first 8 years were pretty much an angel club, investing only in Portuguese companies. Very small tickets, pre-seed focus, pretty much, and a few seed tickets. After a few years of investing and creating a good track record, I would say, and a good network and a good experience, we raised a new fund, the Shilling Founders Fund, in the end of 2020. That's the fund we are deploying now. It's a 52 million euro fund, still focused on pre-seed and seed companies, investing mostly in Portugal. It's our primary goal, our primary focus. That's where we belong, and that's where we want to be involved and help the new generation of founders. but looking more and more to outside opportunities. And since then, since the end of 2020, we have been investing a little bit across the globe, across Europe, Spain, France, UK, Germany, but also outside Brazil, Canada, Taiwan. So we have been investing a little bit outside Portugal and Europe, but still our DNA is still Portugal. We want to back the next generation of the Portuguese entrepreneurs, but always with the mindset of creating huge companies with massive scale, with high scalability, that creates the outcomes that we are seeking as a venture capital. And finally, as I mentioned, pre-seed and seed focus, tickets up to 1 million. As a starting check, we can go up to 2 to 3 million maximum exposure on this fund. Sector agnostic, as long as it is highly scalable, product-driven, tech-driven, huge markets, great teams, that's what we look for. And to finalize, we are hopefully about to close a new fund, a little more focused on Series A. So very happy to talk with you afterwards and to eventually assess an opportunity to invest in your companies. Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, Francisco, what can you tell us about Bynd?
Yeah, thank you very much. Also a pleasure to be here. So I'm a partner at Bynd Venture Capital. So we are a pre-seed, seed Iberian VC fund. We have a similar beginning with Shilling. We have been competitors and co-investors for many, many years. We also started as a group of business angels, then evolved into a VC firm 10 years ago already. And so we invest in companies that have a strong connection with Iberia, either through the founders being from the region, so the company can be based in the US, in the UK, in Germany, but the founders need to be from the region, either having a majority of business activities in the region, and because we do believe in the potential of Southern Europe, in this case in Iberia in particular. So we invest at very early stages of companies. We co-invest a lot of the times, the majority I would say, with national and international investors. And we are also globally sector agnostic. Looking at our current portfolio of more than 35 companies today, we have 2/3 B2B, 1/3 B2C, but we look to this complementarity also between the startups. We are actively investing, looking for good teams, good founders, great markets, and glad also to be in touch if you have an opportunity to share or just discuss an opportunity for the future. Thanks.
Thank you, Francisco. And I'll continue with you. Now, if we think about the global trends, I think that 2023 was a difficult year. We saw a significant decrease in at least announced funding for startups across the world. So, in your view, what were the key drivers and what can we expect in 2024?
I think 2023, and it will continue a little bit in 2024, is a different era that the 3-4 years before in VC and in startups, with record funding, record IPOs, record exits. So we saw the adjustment in 2023. I talk more at the global level. We will talk about the specificities of Portugal a little bit later, which I believe it's a different market. But the reasons, I think now everyone knows it, right? So interest rates climbing, the international conflicts that we have still in our daily lives, and so that also affected the public markets. And when public markets start becoming a little bit with higher risk, the private markets will face it even in a more difficult way, and it starts from the top. So you have Series C's and Series B's becoming really hard to get with a lot of pressure on the valuations. Money is scarce, investors don't invest and are waiting. So we saw that in 2023. When you start going into our phases, seed and pre-seed, I think as the time goes by, the pressure increases, but at the beginning of the year, there wasn't too much pressure because there's always the expectation that when we invest in pre-seed and seed, we give runway for 2 years. So we hope that in 2 years, the Series A and Series B market will pick up, continue investing. So we saw less, it wasn't the craziness of the years before, but we saw activity still in the pre-seed and seed level, and the good deals with a lot of competition still. So we won and we lost deals in 2023, and so I think that was a positive note. The question mark for 2024, I think there are, of course, macro positive indicators. So it seems that interest rates are stabilized. There are signals that they are starting to decrease. Public markets, sustained or not, are better right now. And so signals are positive. And if we look at the local level, so in our case in Iberia, we see more deals, more activity at the VC level, and the pipeline is full. I can tell you in our case, we want to do 4 or 5 deals right now, and I'm not lying. And so the activity is good, but the question mark is if really the Series A and Series B market will really open up. Because if not, it will probably have an impact at the seed stage, and so we cannot be shearing, and we are still in a difficult market. We have to be careful, looking at the signs, and there are, I think, some signals that are here to stay. Valuations will not be at the level after 3 or 4 years ago for quite a while. Which is positive, I think, at the global level, at least for us investors.
Ricardo, do you agree? And I'll ask also, because I get a lot this question, what sectors are hot now? So what are your views in terms of the trends and where money is flowing into?
Yeah, I think just to complement what Francisco said, I think there's mixed feelings. And if you think about the topic for the panel, definitely some down rounds will happen this year, and having a down round is better than having a shutdown or a write-off for us. So I think when there's a down round, there's still some hope, and in the future, in the opportunity of getting back the money or getting back with a better product, with a better solution to continue growing and thriving. So. But for sure, it's going to happen. It's happening. We are seeing happening on a weekly and monthly basis. I think, as Francisco was saying, we are adjusting. As we usually said 2 years ago, it was a founders market. So the founders completely chose the very good, not the very good, but the good enough founders would fundraise with very ease, very quickly, and with very high valuations, because the demand for opportunities was very big, which increased quite a lot the valuations. I think now we are getting into a more investors market, which is good for us, as Francisco was saying. But I think it's even better for the ecosystem as a whole, because it was so inflated and it was not so sustainable that it would go bust in the future as it did. So mixed feelings. There is still a lot of dry powder. There is still a lot of money to invest across the globe. So that's why we see some crazy deals still happening today. Companies, I just heard a company in France, for instance, with 500K ARR raising at 100 million valuation, which is completely crazy. But that's because the very good deals or the very good founders are able to still fundraise on those conditions, because especially on Series B, C, the supply is not very big, so the investors try to grab and try to pay a little higher just to get those deals. On the trends, definitely there are a few trends. Obviously, the AI trend it's here, it's booming, it's growing, it's creating a lot of opportunities to founders, to new generation of founders. We are seeing kind of this concept of a $1 billion company with one employee. We don't believe in that, but still, there's a kind of a macro trend that the AI will do so many things for the new companies that you will be able to create companies much faster, much leaner, and potentially create interesting outcomes with less money, which is, I think, good for all parties, to be honest. But obviously, and also other areas like climate tech is doing quite well as well. A lot of companies, we are seeing a lot of companies in that space. I think there's also the feeling of the healthcare space. US has been quite hot for the last years. I think it's coming to Europe. New legislation is coming. This new trend of longevity, preventive medicine, and so on is booming a lot. We are just seeing, like in the last 2 weeks, 3 or 4 companies here in Portugal trying to address that market. So I think there's also a very interesting area that is being booming. So yeah, I think to wrap it up, I think good and bad signs, maybe some stabilization for the future, which is good for the market. And yeah, technology is here to stay. And as VCs, as technology investors, we do firmly believe in the market, and the opportunities are here to stay for sure.
Thank you. So having a sustainable health tech in AI right now is a great area to be investing on, I guess.
For sure.
Teresa, in terms of your views, so how do you see 2024? And also, given that Portugal Ventures has a very, obviously, the focus is in Portugal, how do you see Portugal versus these global trends that and Francisco mentioned?
Yeah, we don't live in a separate world, so what happens in other places tends to be present here also. But adding a little bit on what Ricardo and Francisco told us, I think cybersecurity is also a trend. I see a lot of startups going on, and AI, of course, but the conjugation of AI with health tech, that seems to me very clear that will be a path in the future with longevity, health tech, because now we have data, and we have data in health. This is quite new for us, and I think this will be, we will talk about it a lot in the near future. In Portugal, 2023 in Europe and the United States was, of course, different. It was down from the other years in terms of fundraising and in terms of money pouring in the ecosystem. But we have to remember that 21 and 22 were very high. So 23 was correcting and still is higher than 2020. So that's not a big fall, it's just a fall from where we were so high. So it's not a big drama. For a Portugal, like a country like ours, Portugal, that we are mostly, and Portugal Ventures, mostly seed and pre-seed, this is not so obvious and impactant and relevant, because we are in the seed phase, and seed is more resilient to these phenomena that happen. There's a correlation, that study. If you are in later stages, you suffer more. And it's because the market, and maybe you have an IPO, it's different. You have more responsibility, you have more, the market, it's more on you. So in the early stage, you in a secure way, and you don't see investors pushing startups out of their portfolios or don't giving them the money to extend the runway. So I think we are still patient enough to support our startups to go to another most friendly arena that we are going to have. And let me say that in Portugal we have very important things that we know that we have good academia, infrastructure, a lot. But in terms of what a tech visa is very important to attract and retain people here. And golden visa. Golden visa is not that. It's that for real estate, almost. Not in this area. And it could be a good way for us to grow. These venture capital funds can accept golden visa money to pour money in the ecosystem.
Yeah. Thank you. So, and thinking about Portugal, actually, the last few weeks, months have been quite active. So, we had obviously the Farfetch went to the news, being a fantastic example of the Portuguese innovation, getting the news for not so good reasons. But on the other hand, we had the BZA announcing a round of expand to the US. There was the exit of Cellmabs, which is one of your startups, which was a very significant exit from what I could read in the news. So, are we really? Can we be optimistic about 2024 in Portugal? And I'll start with you, probably, Francisco. Do you think that will Farfetch have some implications in the Portuguese market or not? So how do you see 2024?
I think the specific Farfetch probably has a lot of lessons learned to the different stakeholders involved. But I think, and it's important to say that typically we say that Europe and Portugal in particular, to be more competitive, we have to be more risk adverse and look at failure in a more positive way, or problems into a more positive way. And I think that should be the case. I think we should look at it in neutral. It's something that happens. I normally say that it is a complete roller coaster. In one day, I have one founder saying that he's going to have his personal jet plane and become Google. In the next day, he's in a hole and he wants to be alone, to be left alone, and is going to lose everything. And this is true on a weekly basis. It's very tough to be an entrepreneur, in the case of Farfetch, there's a tremendous history, a lot of value created for the country, not only in Portugal, but all the countries where they have operations, but mainly in Portugal, skills, people, new founders, entrepreneurs. I think reducing that to some issues that arise, I think it's something, I'm not part of. Regarding the sector and the good news, you will have them. It's a tougher market, so you'll tend to have maybe less rounds, less exits, but there's a lot of good teams, a lot of good products and great companies out there. In our case, I cannot say the name, we just exited very positively a company last week. So there are good indications. We continue to be here, at least in our role as investors, to continue supporting, financing, also facing our challenges, because also raising capital for funds, it's also not an easy task, and in current market conditions also difficult. But we are here to continue supporting and, of course, continue to be very positive regarding the future. Tech is here to stay. That's the only thing I'm completely sure.
Thank you.
And I just do that who wouldn't want to be an IPO founder? So I think when you think about, it's a failure, I don't think so. I think it's what happens to companies. Sometimes they cannot meet the the plans and the expectations, but still, the guy did an IPO. I think it's only a few of us in Portugal, or I think...
Yeah, you can ask their early investors if it was a failure
Exactly,
for them.
so yeah,
Yeah.
so I would
We
kind of...
invested in Farfetch way ago, so we are not unhappy. But they did a very good job for the
ecosystem.
Portuguese ecosystem and economy, and to bring Portugal to other places in the world to talk about us. And I think that many people that will go out of Farfetch will be very good founders, and we have to raise conditions to support them as new founders that I think they will come in a near future.
Thank you, Teresa. We are running out of time, so
Can I talk by Cell Maps?
So please go ahead.
Because we exit Cell Maps, and it was a huge deal for Portugal Ventures, of course, and for the founders. But the hype about Portugal and the biotech in the area, and other investors want to contact us and the founders and to be interested in investing in this area, this biotech, where we have lots of very good scientists. I think it will bring very good news for Portugal in a very, very near future.
Perfect. And I think, again, our audience will leave knowing that it's obviously a difficult year, but optimistic about the Portuguese context and the number of...
You have to be very patient, because these biotech deals don't happen in 1 or 2 years.
Yeah.
So they are different, they are difficult, but they are worth it. And I think this is the news.
Thank you. And now in the audience we have VCs, we have startups, we have corporate companies. So as a last word of advice for regarding the funding, that what we can expect, and mostly towards startups, which are obviously the ones that are eager to fundraise, what would be your word of advice? Teresa, you already started by being patient, but...
For startups, yes, patience is a very good quality for investors and LPs, because it's not all green in the first 1 or 2 years. Be patient, do the professionals do their jobs, be present when you are asked to, be relevant, invest in things that you are passionate about it, and this is for LPs and investors. For startups, if I can say one thing, it's raise money enough in order for you to survive at least 18 months.
Thank you, Teresa. Ricardo.
Very quick, very maybe controversial. Really think about raising money from investors, because it's a long-term relationship. It's kind of a marriage. So I think sometimes it's better to have a business for yourself that you like, that going into a relationship that it's not going to be good, and the outcome is not going to be good for both parties. So
Toxic. A toxic relationship.
A toxic relationship. So I think it's really think about if you want to do it, and what is the outcome that investors look for, and what it takes to be a VC-backed company. And if so, choose wisely the partners you partner with. And I shut up.
Thank you. And then to finalize, Francisco.
Well, I would say, first of all, build your company in Portugal today. There's a lot of money in the Portuguese market. We haven't had the time to discuss that, but I do believe that we are counter-cycle in that sense. So you have a very good opportunity to raise money here for your project right now, and focus on fundamentals. Build a tremendously good team, unique product based on technology, if that's your area, and target a tremendously big market. I think if you combine these things, you augment your probability of success.
Thank you very much. I hope you got some good insights out of this conversation.